At the beginning of his speech, Charlie Munger stated that inflation is a very important problem and that it is the cause of the downfall of democracies. In Latin America, the death of democracies is often accompanied by a significant rise in inflation. Because of this, it poses a significant risk. When you have a populist who is aware that they can vote themselves money, things become interesting. If you push things to the extreme, you will severely damage your civilization. If you take a look at the Roman Republic, you'll notice that even after they transitioned to an empire with an absolute ruler, they continued to practice steady currency inflation for hundreds of years, which ultimately led to the downfall of the entire Emerald Empire. Therefore, it is the most significant threat we face in the long run, maybe second only to nuclear war. Charlie thinks that a safe bet for an investor is that the value of money will go to zero in the next 100 years. Way more inflation, which wiped out the savings of the middle class in Germany, and the Great Depression were what led to Hitler's rise to power. History isn't fun, and Germany was a very advanced and well-mannered country. It was shown that when modern countries like Japan, the United States, and Europe print money on the scale that they do, we are getting into new territory in terms of size. We've never done anything like what we're doing now, and we know from what's happened in other countries that trying to print too much money leads to terrible problems in the long run. After the 1970s, when Volcker raised the prime rate to 20% and the government paid 15% on its bonds, it was a terrible recession. Charlie thought it was strange that Volcker was able to do that without politicians getting in the way. In 2020, we can see that what Volcker did was a good thing. Think about all the countries in Latin America that print too much money and end up with strong men. Plato said that something similar happened in the first Greek city-state democracies. If one person votes for a lot of laws, you get demagogues, and the demagogues stir up the population. Charlie thinks we might be aware that we're getting close to big problems. Japan is still a civilized country, even though it has printed so much money that it seems impossible by old standards. When things are seductive, people tend to use them too much. If you invest in stocks or real estate for the long term, there will be times when things are really bad and times when things are really good. Charlie thinks you just have to learn how to deal with them. You must deal with the day and the night. Charlie thinks that you should always do your best and keep going as long as they let you. He also said that we have a very strong economy and a strong technological civilization that won't disappear. Those trends can be stopped. He doesn't think that we'll be able to solve our problems as well as Japan. Charlie claims that he has never saved money for better times during his adult life. He has his money into the greatest option available to him. Berkshire has a surplus of cash but is not investing it because it believes it can predict market fluctuations. It can't locate grounding principles. Since nothing else meets our requirements at these costs, we have no choice but to make this purchase. The price is being driven up by speculators, many of whom have no intention of ever taking ownership of the assets they are purchasing. A significant portion of it consists of buying feed ribbons. Private equity firms from purchases with the intention of increasing their fee income by increasing the number of assets they manage. When you use the money of another person to acquire something you need, the process is much simpler. Charlie is encouraging the shareholders who are concerned about the future because it appears to be confusing and difficult by relaying to them what his old torch professor said to him. Charlie, tell me what your difficulty is, and I'll try to make it more difficult for you. He said that it was a favor done to him by treating him in such a manner. In addition to that, Charlie wants everyone to understand this point. Everyone is concerned about the rate of inflation as well as the future of the Republic. You may expect a significant response from the government in a contemporary democracy that was founded after Keynes. This time around, the response was significantly more extensive than it has ever been in a record of events year by year of United States history. They simply threw money at the problem, and while it was certainly justified for them to worry about what was going to happen and to be fairly liberal in throwing money at it, I think that they went a little bit overboard with it. Because they flung about so much money in such a short period of time, the restaurants are having trouble finding employees to work there. It is difficult to make such choices under pressure, but he didn't criticize it. You can't help but have faith in the skill of our technological culture. The recent century, from 1922 to 2022, saw the greatest increase in technological advancement, while the prior century also saw significant progress. As far back as we can go, though things have remained essentially unchanged for thousands of years, there wasn't much to live besides hardship and death. For instance, you won't find a printing press, air conditioning, or even basic medical care. Charlie doubts that we will be provided with the necessities of life. Imagine the impact of the steam engine, the steamship, the railroad, and even modest gains in agricultural productivity and plumbing technology. This is why the year 1922 marked the conclusion of the century. Look at the automobile, the airplane, the records, the movies, and the air conditioning in the South that were all developed within the next century. According to Charlie, it is a good thing that if a couple desired 3 kids, they had to have 6 because 3 of them would die as infants. Just imagine how difficult life might be for them at that time. It is amazing how much achievement there's been in civilization in these last 200 years, and most of it is in the last 100 years. Now the trouble with it is that the basic needs are pretty well filled. In the United States, the principal problem of poor people is that they're too fat, which is a very different place from what happened in the past. They were on the edge of starving. What happens is with all this enormous increase in living standards and freedom, the diminishment of racial inequities, and all the huge progress that has come, people are less happy about the state of affairs than they were when things were way tougher. The very simple explanation for that is the world is not driven by greed. It's driven by envy. The fact that everybody's 5 times better off than they used to be, they take it for granted. It's built into the nature of things. It's weird for somebody his age because he was in the middle of the Great Depression. When the hardship was unbelievable, Charlie is telling that he was safer walking around Omaha in the evening than he was in his own neighborhood in Los Angeles. Charlie can change the fact that even though everything has gotten better by about 600%, a lot of people are still very unhappy and feel very used because someone else still has more. Just think about how much the rich waste on being showy. You need a Rolex watch so you can get robbed for it. He also said that everyone wants to spend money in a showy way. In our modern capitalist society, that helps drive demand. Charlie tells young people that they shouldn't live like that. Don't let yourself be tricked into buying things that you don't need. The thought of spending money on something that seems silly can make you so happy. It only moves civilization forward and makes people feel more unhappy. The interviewer asked Charlie, besides owning good stocks, what did he thought was the best way for individual investors to deal with the bad effects of inflation? Here is Charlie's answer. Well, it could be that you have to pick the worst of a bunch of options, Charlie said. He also said that the Mungers owned Berkshire stock, Costco stock, Chinese stocks, and a little bit of Daily Journal stock, and a lot of apartment buildings. If you asked him if that was perfect, he said he would say no. Charlie thinks that the most important thing to learn from the Mungers is that you don't need so many different things. If you have 4 good things, you are already lucky. About what Charlie said, what can you say? Wisdom from a man who knows what it's like to have good things in life and doesn't think you need more. You need to figure out what you're good at, put time and money into it, and let yourself handle it in a way that lets you sleep well at night. The Bible says that you can't serve money and God at the same time. You have to be in charge of your money. Learn to be happy with what you have and look for ways to make your money grow. Remember that envy denies your uniqueness, splits your attention, wastes your time, energy, and resources, hurts your relationships, and makes you do something else that is wrong.